after I had finished writing the scene, I was like, is this what it feels like to properly execute thematic payoff? Is this what it feels like to write a character arc?
Hello, welcome back to my channel. So this is going to be the writing vlog where I finish Project Night, which, you know, if you've been on this channel for like the last 6 months, this has been the major project that I've been working on, the adult fantasy novel. And it's been a wild ride, and I'm just ready to finish it off. I'm very scatterbrained and I'm very emotional right now. I have like 8 chapters left to write for this book. It's the second week of January currently. I don't know how long it's going to take to finish this. Yeah, I feel like I've said this before, but I think there's been a part of my like subconscious that has like made me intentionally, I just feel like I've been intentionally writing the ending very slowly. I also feel like weirdly reluctant to let go of these characters and this world. And this is genuinely like the first time that this has happened to me, to be honest. And I can't even like fully comprehend the feeling either, because it's only draft 1. So I know that I'm gonna have to like rewrite this book many, many times. And I also, in an ideal world, would love to write a sequel for this book as well. And it's also strange because like I've always loved giving my characters endings. But for this book, I think what it is that this is the project where if I look back on it, I have felt myself grow a lot as a writer with this book. So it's just been a journey, which is not to say that the book is not a hot mess, because it is. The story still needs a ton of work. But with that said, there were moments like genuinely while I was writing, or when I've like combed back through the draft and I've like seen sections of some chapters where I just think like, oh, maybe I'm decent at writing. When I'm reading the draft over, I'm like genuinely having a good time reading it. And I can't say that about all of the previous books that I've written or attempted to write. Like, I think maybe it was the fact that I didn't rush it so much. I didn't rush the writing process so much.
I can't believe the draft is at 80K. It's too soon for the draft to be at 80K. I have so much left to write. I wrote a very lore dumpy chapter last night, and I'm about to review it to see how bad it really is. So that's today's plan. Here's the update. Here's the situation. I took a writing break for about 3 days. I don't know, I've just been feeling really weird about this ending. I know exactly how I need it to end and everything. I think it's just the prospect of like letting go of this story I don't know. I think it's this feeling that I get where once I wrap up draft one, I'm going to shelve it for at least a few weeks. And I think I'm scared that, you know, when I like shelve it and start working on the next project, that I'm going to like lose passion for it, that I'm going to forget it, that I'm going to not go back to it. Yeah. It's just, I'm feeling like crazy levels of emotions towards this story and this ending that I've never been through before. Like I've never had a strange attachment to the story, and I don't know why. I don't know why I'm feeling like this. The writing session last night was interesting. I kind of like wrote out a scene that I honestly don't think it needs to be a whole scene, but I wrote it out because I felt like exploring certain character interactions, and I felt like I just needed to put it onto the page. I think it's been at least a week. I spent some time thinking about what I want to draft next. And I actually posted a video where I did like a brainstorm with me type video where I kind of talked a little bit about what I think could be the next book that I work on this year after this one is done. Like usually I'm only drafting one book at a time. So I had really not planned to take a break from Project Night to go outline another book. That was not on the agenda for January. Whenever an idea takes hold of me, I have to drop everything, because otherwise the ideas I'll forget them if they're not, you know, as fresh. So yeah, just like a little bit of a draft update. I am halfway through this act, which means that in 4.5 chapters, we'll be done writing this book. So yeah, the draft is sitting at 84K, I think. But yeah, I'm just shocked that we're here. I think there was a part of me that was like, oh, I'm not really gonna finish this book anytime soon. I think it's fun in these vlogs to also talk a little bit about what I'm currently reading. These besties have been sitting on my shelf for months. I've actually started reading all of them. I'm kind of like reading them simultaneously right now. I'm also reading library books right now. Honestly, usually take priority over my physical books because they're library copies. Okay, I'm actually only reading one library book at the moment, and it is Kim Ji-young, born 1982 by Cho Nam-ju. This is a very, very popular book that I'm seeing a lot of people talking about. But yeah, that is the TBR at the moment. So today is the last day of January, I believe. Yes, it is. Chapters that I have left to write have grown a little bit. There's like a few extra chapters to write. I'm sorry if I seem like super tired right now. It's just like, I'm just feeling a little out of it because it was like a good writing weekend. Like I had pretty decent output. However, I don't know how happy I am with what I wrote, and that happens every once in a while. Usually to mitigate that, I just have to power through it and also take the time to read books that excite me. That's usually what gets me out of this weird, I don't like to call it writer's block, but and it's not a writing slump either, because it's not like I'm not motivated to write. It's more that when I sit down to write, the sentences are feeling really stilted. I finished Kim Ji-young, born 1982. It was a very short book, so I finished that over the weekend and I really liked it. It was, I would recommend. But that book isn't like a prosy prose type book. It's not, well, I don't want to spoil it, so I won't like talk about it, but the way that it's written is very terse. So right now I'm just trying to find my groove with my writing again. Yeah, right now I'm actually taking a break from my physical books, the ones that I said that I was going to read earlier in this video, because I just kind of wanted a bit of a genre shift. So I'm actually reading The Taking of Jake Livingston by Ryan Douglas. It's like a YA horror, and it's actually really good. We still have, like, we're almost there. We're definitely almost at the end. Chapter 30, which is the chapter that I'm writing right now, is gonna take me a while because I just think it's probably the toughest chapter in the entire manuscript. There's been tough chapters to get through, but this chapter in particular is just, it's very demanding from both a plot and a character perspective. The boiling point for a lot of character arcs. There's also a lot of like lore that needs to be ironed out. I can just see revision's gonna be tough. I do think though that once I get through chapter 30, everything else is denouement. That is something to look forward to, because I love a good denouement. I love a good character reflection. Yeah, this chapter is the worst of the storm, I think. Okay, this is like really off topic, but I just have to say, I finished reading the Shibuya incident arc in the Jujutsu Kaisen manga last night at like 2 a.m. Truly traumatizing. Like, okay, I'm on chapter, what is this? I think I'm on chapter 137 now. I think this is where I left off last night. I'm kind of conflicted as to whether or not I should stop reading and then just like consume the rest of the story when the anime comes out in, I don't know, it'll probably take a while, but also now I'm like super hooked. Yeah, they pretty much just want that same design, right? We're approaching the end of the first week of February. This is the worst freaking chapter in the act. I think it's gonna absolutely wipe my soul to write this, because it's hard. It's just hard. It's a hard chapter. I think, to be honest, I've just been really drained from work. I've been trying not to be too hard on myself, because I don't know if it would have been better for me to try to like power through the burnout, you know? Anyways, I'm feeling a lot better today, so I'm taking that as like a good sign. You know what's interesting is all of the chapters leading up to this chapter were honestly kind of fun to write. Like, I felt like I was able to get in decent writing sessions and like finish them and everything. But now that I am at the chapter, it's not the last chapter, but it's the last major chapter, I think. Now that I'm writing it, I don't want to mess it up because it's such an important chapter. And so every time I like try to figure out the flow of it, or I'm trying to get into the scene, it's not coming to me. When we envision a scene or a chapter in our head for so long, I mean, I'm literally at the end of the book, it becomes really precious because I'm not getting it like perfect on the first try. Suddenly I'm like, well, shit, you know, I've ruined the entire book. I'm realizing now that this really could have been 2 vlogs, but I'm too stubborn to admit defeat. So we are finishing this book in this vlog. I believe I've had a little tiny bit of a breakthrough. It's been a whole saga to write this chapter. I think one thing that has been difficult with this chapter is that I'm writing this book in dual POV, as I've said many times, and the chapters are alternating between like the two main characters. In the original outline, this chapter is being told in Felix's perspective. I think that might be one thing that was holding me back. I tend to stick very closely to my outline for first drafts because that is like the roadmap that I've laid out from the start. However, it doesn't mean that I don't deviate from it at all. It just means that if I'm deviating from it, I want to make sure that it's like I kind of go through a checklist in my mind about, you know, is this the right choice for the story and why am I making this choice? I think perspective obviously plays a role in how the reader is going to feel about the events that are happening. I don't know why I thought that this entire chapter had to be in Felix's head, because I think it is actually much more efficient emotionally for the second half of the events in this chapter to actually be from Anna's point of view. I split the chapter in half, so chapter 30 has now become chapter 30 and 31, because this is a more fast-paced, why does that sound weird? Faster paced? Because this is a faster paced part of the story, I think it feels okay rhythmically to put a chapter break here. Also, you know when you're just like having a writing session and you feel like you've suddenly forgotten all of the words in your vocabulary? Like I feel like that right now. For some reason, like all of the action that's happening in this chapter is kind of hard for me to visualize. I don't know what the solution to that is, other than the first draft just has to be bad. It might just be like a mindset thing. I might just have to rewrite this chapter on a day where I'm feeling more creatively focused. So, fun fact, I truly wrote nothing for 5 whole days. So that's where we're at. I stubbornly do not want to give up on this vlog. I was just feeling really stuck in this draft. I was feeling very down. I'm just like entering into one of those cycles where I'm starting to doubt again like what my capabilities are as a writer. It's always good to kind of like step back from the current project, because it was like exacerbating the feeling of this like feeling that I'm like stagnating. I think I have 3 chapters left to write. Pretty much the same as where I was at last week. So what chapter is this? Chapter 32. I'm actually excited to write this chapter. There's a conversation that one of the main characters, Anna, has with her mother at the end of this chapter. I actually got the idea for this conversation from a conversation that I had with my dad a while ago, and I thought it was something that could be adapted into Anna's story to kind of help contextualize her relationship with her mother, because I think that's something that I want to build out in the second draft. Yeah, I think there's just a lot of baggage to unpack there, and I think in a future draft I have to figure out exactly how I want to tighten up some of the details of those relationships. I don't know yet. I'm getting like inundated with draft 2 ideas now that I'm like 90% of the way through the book. So yesterday I got in a decent writing session. I was gonna like vlog some of it like as I was writing the chapter, the scene, because I was really liking how the chapter was flowing, but I kind of got so emotional while I was writing. I didn't want to pick up a camera because I was like, I actually had tears in my eyes while I was writing. I don't know if this happens to you guys. I don't know if this happens to other writers, but I have never in my entire life of writing anything, I have never cried or even gotten like teary-eyed from writing, like my own writing. Like genuinely, all of the stories that I've ever written in my life, I have never felt on the brink of tears before. It's so funny because like afterwards, after I had finished writing the scene, I was like, is this what it feels like to properly execute thematic payoff. Is this what it feels like to write a character arc? I think I tend to get particularly emotional over the types of stories where sort of these like generational type themes. I think that is a theme that I've been trying to execute quite a bit in this story. I think I'll talk about this a little bit more when I do like my whole drafting reflection video for this entire book. I was debating keeping that clip in that you guys just saw. When I like watched it back, seeing my facial expressions, I did not realize how emotional I really looked. Yeah, I don't really know what to say other than the fact that when I was watching that clip back, I felt very emotional finishing that last chapter yesterday. As I was like writing the last paragraph, I started filming because I wanted to like film the reaction. I think prior to finishing this book, like, you know, at several points in the last 2 months, I was having that conversation with myself again off camera. I did not want to film it because I've talked about this so much on this channel about like wanting to give up and feelings of doubt and stuff like that. I didn't want to bring that into this vlog, but there still really was a lot of moments writing this last act where I was very seriously just asking myself if like traditional publishing is something that I want to put myself through. It's obviously not the first time I've thought about it, but writing is something that has been I've defined so much of my life by it. And I think in finishing this book, it was like, I think I surprised myself by how much my body and my brain, you know, was putting like, I was so tired all the time after work. My brain was telling me, you know, what are you doing this all for? What are you really working towards? Once you finish this draft one, that's just the start of the work. You know, there's so much work still ahead of me to get this story into a decent place. And yet still I was writing it. Like all the rational parts of myself were like telling me to stop, but for some reason I kept writing it and I kept writing it. And then suddenly I was at the end. And then I looked back and I was like, I just wrote this book, despite the fact that I thought I didn't have it in me anymore to write anything. I'm happy, of course, that I finished the book, but I'm also surprised. I'm surprised at myself that I didn't decide to shelve it when I started seeing all the flaws in the last act. Right now, I feel like nothing I'm saying is really coherent. It's not really making any sense. So I kind of want to like gather my thoughts and kind of just compile it in a much more comprehensible manner. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you've been following the journey of writing this book since the first vlog, I appreciate it. It means a lot. I hope all of your writing projects are going well, as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video.